Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Not to be a backseat driver, but can you say for sure you got the best monthly payment possible on your auto loan? Could it be that you might have gotten a better deal by shopping the loan at a few places and have a lower car payment? Next time, before you go car shopping, visit Communication Federal Credit Union first. Our auto loan experts will find you a perfect loan and get you the lowest monthly payment we can. Communication Federal, your auto loan experts. Restrictions apply. Federally insured by NCUA.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everyone. Actually, I'm the one that was gone to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am Aggie, and with me, as usual, is my other fun co host, Rick. How are you doing tonight?
Fun where? I've been told I'm a stick in the mud. I'm just saying. Anyway, I'm doing all right. I've missed you though, so I'm glad you're back.
I know I was gone for what, a month? I think I was gone.
Yeah, about a month. About a month.
Yeah. It was an exciting month for me. Actually, not really. It wasn't that exciting until one night. I was basically on a holding pattern waiting for my first grandchild to be born. So, but once that happened, it was awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, congratulations. Now you got to catch up. You need like 13 more.
Yeah, I know you're an old hand at this.
Hey, I resemble that.
Honestly, I never thought I'd have grandchildren. My kids were like, "Yeah, we're gonna wait on that." I'm like, "I'm not getting any younger." They would tell me that's your problem, not mine.
Nice.
They're awful.
AM, that's actually a really good comeback, sir. You cannot stick a wet noodle in the mud. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate the love. I'm feeling it from here. So, all right. So, but anyway, so yeah, there's been absolutely nothing going on while you were gone. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing.
No,
There's nothing new going
I
on.
heard things were boring. That kind of thing, which is kind of weird because I was getting my news fix pretty much from my phone. Um, my my daughter and her husband have streaming services, but they normally don't watch news or anything like that. So I was getting it from, and of course, my daughter actually got kind of used to asking me, "So what's going on in the world today?" So I would give her a rundown.
Nice.
and, and of course, then when the Iran thing happened, she was very worried because she just got out of the military, but her husband's still in the military. And I told her, I said, You guys know what you signed up for, right? I mean, you know that was a possibility." She says, "Yes, it's just that now that we're parents, it's kind of a different thing." I said, "Yeah, I know, it's always different." Um, but she was discussing the we had a good back and forth about the legality of what was going on, and I had to explain certain things to her, and she actually gave me a really good compliment. She said that I was extremely well versed in domestic policy, but also foreign policy as well, and wondered how I was so good at it. And I said, "Oh, I don't know. When I went to school, they taught that in eighth grade." I
Right?
was like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. but but then that kind of devolved into the whole schooling situation. And now that she's a new mom, she is. I mean, my grandchild is 2 weeks old, and she's already thinking about homeschooling. So I'm like, yay!
Nice.
I told her I would take over. She's like, no, no, because I know you'll be teaching about the Visigoths and all that stuff. And that's fine, but that's for like 10th grade, not for first grade. I'm like, you're right.
Oh no 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 no
Calculus
no.
comes in first grade. That's
You start them young. That way they know it all. That's what I'm saying.
exactly, exactly. You always start them young. I was like, one of the kids in our neighborhood was being homeschooled, and he was doing calculus by the time he was in sixth grade. And the high schools were not even doing calculus until you were in 10th or 11th grade, where I was at. So I told her, we'll do calculus and chemistry in elementary school, and then move up to the Visigoths when she's in eighth grade. She's
Nice.
she thought that was fair.
Nice. Well played. Well played.
Yeah. So how are things over there with you?
Oh, they're doing all right. We're under a tornado watch again in
Oh,
March.
yeah.
So yay, yay.
I
Um.
just you've seen what's been coming out of Michigan.
Oh yeah, I saw. Oh,
It's
but yeah.
it's insane. And I have to say, of all of the natural disasters, acts of God that can possibly happen, the tornado is the one that scares me the most. I have gone through 45 hurricanes in my life. And yes, they're very destructive, but they give you time to get out of the way. Earthquakes, yeah, they can be destructive, but you can take certain precautions, but you can't with a tornado. You just can't. So it always scares me because it's so unpredictable.
Meanwhile, I'm usually in my lawn chair drinking a beer, watching it fly overhead. Cause yeah, I live between two rivers, so we almost never we they come close. Like there's a small town about 6.5 miles southwest of I'm sorry, no, northwest of us. And it got wiped off the map a couple years ago. And everybody was like, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like doing my show because I'm not getting any weather alerts or anything on my phone. And everybody's blowing up my phone. I think it was one of the nights you and I were actually on. I get off the air and everybody's blowing up my phone. Are you okay? Are you okay? There was like a huge tornado like 6 miles from you. I'm like, I keep telling you guys to quit panicking. I live between two rivers. They jump in every single time. There's a reason that all the Indians used to camp out right here. Just saying.
Oh, that is true. That is true. I
And
find
it's
it so
actually That one of the neighbors was the ones that told us about it. They're like, yeah, there's an old Indian legend about being between two rivers, and she said there was one night that one literally there's river about quarter mile from us. It was a big ass one, and she saw it come up to the river and then jump, and it kept going until it got to the river on the other side. Then it touched back down again, and kept on going. She said, "Yeah, I sat out on my porch one night and just watched it happen." And yeah, since then I've lived here now, what, 11, 15? So yeah, 11 years. It'll be 11 years in a couple of months. And yeah, I've seen it 3 times in the 11 years that I've been here.
That's wild.
Crazy. But yeah.
Is it the same thing like if you live next to a lake, asking for a friend?
I have actually seen water spouts in lakes. So I can't
Yes. Yeah, I know that. I've seen those too. And I was in Florida when I was 16. That was the year that my mom was pregnant and took us to Disney World. God knows what she was thinking, but God was with her the whole time. So yay. But we actually we went from Disney World, we went to Miami to visit my aunt and uncle, and they took us to the beach, and there was a storm coming in, which is why he took us to the beach. His reasoning was, if there's a storm coming in, the beach is not going to be crowded, so we can hang out, and the sun won't be as bad, so it'll be nice. That was his reasoning. Never mind that there were really bad storm clouds on the horizon coming, and all of a sudden he says, "Yeah, we gotta go." We had been there like maybe 45 minutes, and we're like, "We just got here a little while ago." It's like, "You see that over there? That's a water spout. We need to go." And at the time, I was like, I don't know what that is. I knew what a tornado was, but I didn't know what a water spout was. And it looked kind of cool. It was really, really far off. So, but he didn't want to take any chances. It never reached, it dissipated way out there. But you could see it. You could see it, and that kind of stuck with me. Like, he wanted to go on a cloudy day and didn't realize the possibility of perhaps the storm being bad. God rest him. He was a funny character. But
Stephen, you're never late. You arrive precisely when you're meant to, sir.
that's right. Everyone else is early.
Oh, but yeah, so I don't know. So so I know we don't usually talk politics on this show, but since you live in Texas, we got to talk about jazz hands. We have
Jazz hands.
we have to talk about Sleevy Crockett, because she went from
Okay,
blaming
I don't like her.
Republicans. Well, no, nobody does. That's the point.
I'm going to preface that I don't like her. In this case, it really was a choice of the lesser of two evils, but apparently the Democrats decided to go down a different road and pick the greater of the two. Tallarico is honestly, I'm going to get religious here because he fills all the boxes. He ticks them all off. He really is very anti-Christian. He's masquerading as one, and he's subverting scripture to suit the current narratives. And so people are buying into it. And I'm like, the people that are buying into it are the ones that want Christianity to be too easy. They
Yeah.
want Christianity to be easy. That's why they're like, I've been waiting for somebody like this, because you don't want to work to be a good Christian. That's why you've been waiting for somebody like this, right? Jasmine, poor thing, I kind of feel a little sorry for her, because I I don't think, when she was up there and she was speaking and she was leaving, I don't think she flounced off. She did, she did hang around for a while, and then she just decided to go ahead and leave. But she did say her goodbyes and everything. I'll give her credit. Um, so those clips were just like, okay, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. That's not what happened. Um, but she unfortunately she put herself in a situation where she thought her methods were going to win out over Tallarico. And instead of getting out of that ghetto type of mentality that she wants to push on everybody, because I know she's not ghetto. That woman comes from a very affluent family. She had a very good education. She I've heard her talk before she became a Congress person, and she would talk very well. So this whole persona that she adopted so that she could be one of the people in her district, it turned off the rest of the people. Once the district was redone, it turned off a lot of the people, and they were like, yeah, I so she decides to run for Senate, and I'm like, but she went in what? In December, she puts
Yeah.
in her paperwork to be a candidate for the primary, and her first ad was the dumbest thing that she could have done, which is just her face in profile turning slightly towards the camera as President Trump is calling her all these names. And I'm like, that's not a win. You're basically, what you did there is validating what he said about you. And I just, it's kind of like what the New Yorker did with the cartoon that they released of President Trump in the Jeep looking like General Patton. I'm like, so you made him even cooler. In your attempt to denigrate our president, you made him look cool. That's what happened with her. In her
Uh,
attempt to elevate herself, you actually validated what the president was saying about you, which was not flattering at all. So there were a lot of missteps that she took. One of the and she should have had a better opportunity to go after Stephen Colbert and Tallarico for what they did going to YouTube. She didn't take advantage of that. She spoke about it a couple of times, but she did not take advantage of that, demanding the same amount of time, pushing the envelope to where, Colbert would have been faced with having to actually come clean about why he did it the way he did. So she did a few missteps, and Jazzy Hands is no longer in the running for Senate for the Democrats.
well, so a couple of things. There were three things that I picked up on during the night she released that she lost, and then the next day. Some of which I thought were absolutely amazing because at first she was blaming Republicans because I guess Dallas County has some weird thing now where your polling place is party specific, depending on where you are, which I didn't know. That seems a little weird. I don't really know anything about that. But so she pointed that out and said that people were felt like they were being turned away, and she made it seem like her base was too stupid to go figure out where their actual polling place was and go vote. That I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
that that was kind of misstep number one. Then the next day she comes out and says that the DNC was darkening her complexion in all of her ads.
Uh, what? I
Yeah.
missed that. I'm just like, I don't.
She literally said they were making her look darker than she actually was in all of her ads. So it's like 1 minute she's blaming Republicans for being racist, and then she has some sort of an epiphany. Is like, maybe my side's the racist after all, because I just realized what they were doing to my ads, which I don't know how she wouldn't have noticed before now. And then there
That's
was
kind
one.
of odd.
There
I
was
mean,
one other thing that I can't remember now. That
well,
was like
going back to
big.
the darkening, um, I've actually seen her live, and yes, her complexion is pretty dark. I'm not gonna lie, she's a good-looking woman. She really is. Um, I wish he would tone down the lashes a little. I mean, I really do, but
Oh, come on! But then her,
that's
but then her and MTG couldn't have had their famous floor fight about lashes.
yeah, I know that's still living rent free. It's one of those few things that you look back on just to have a moment of joy in your head. That's one of mine because it was just so catty and so cool. Not gonna lie. But she's a pretty woman, and I don't I mean, I can't I looked at them and I didn't think that there was any difference in the tonation of her skin. I I I I don't see it. I don't see where she would say that. Maybe she was
Well,
placed in shadow. Part of it was in shadow or something, but I didn't think so.
I mean,
Um,
Stephen, cover your ears for 3 seconds in 3, 2, 1. Most lawyers I know are rather narcissistic, and she can't handle the fact that she lost, so she's blaming everyone else.
perhaps.
Okay, somebody tell Stephen he can uncover his ears now.
Yeah. I think Audrey's right. Women, am I right? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna
I mean,
deny it.
don't forget, Aggie is one of the few women that I know that are like, maybe we should do away with the 19th for a while till we
I
figure out
am
what's going on with
totally
my
in
species.
favor of that, and I'm bring back the poll tax too, man. I'm so done.
Oh, but yeah, Tallarico. I know everybody was afraid of him. I don't really know why, because
Um,
I don't see too many people below the age of 35 voting for somebody that says God is non-binary and there's 6 genders. So
I do think that there is. I think that there's always cause for alarm with people like these because one of the things that you should never do is underestimate an opponent. And this guy, the way he has been rising, has been very Beto-like. And as a matter of fact, they call him Beta Beto. And I'm like, boy, that's taking it really far because I thought Beto was beta already, you know? But he really is. I mean, most people listening here probably are not from Texas. Most people in the chat are not from Texas. So, but I've known Beto's career since my parents lived in El Paso, and I used to go out there, and he was a councilman, and so I got kind of familiar with his rise and everything. I mean, he was very much embraced by the media here and nationally, and it was a careful grooming of this particular persona, and you see that with Tallarico. Nobody knew this guy, no one, until maybe a year and a half ago, and no one knew this guy. And it was the same thing. There was a careful grooming of that particular persona. Now, a lot of clips are coming out. Thankfully, the internet never, disappoints. And people are starting to notice that this guy is not exactly how he portrayed himself to be in that particular Colbert interview and in several interviews beforehand while he was running for the primary. And now there's legitimate concern from the left. And a lot of people are trying to explain things that he has said. And I cannot stress to you when you listen to some of the sermons that he delivered, I was like, Joel Osteen makes makes him I think Joel Osteen makes I don't know. It's like it makes Joel Osteen more Christian when you listen to this guy. That's how bad Tallarico is when he's delivering his sermons, when he's talking about God, when he's talking about Christianity, when he's talking about faith. When when you make the mega church dude with the teeth look good, that's kind of scary. Okay. So it has been, and the weird thing is I live in a predominantly red area, but I know a couple of people that do vote blue here, and we have very cool discussions on the stuff and everything, and they're alarmed. They don't like it. They do think that he's using Christianity as his shield in order to get elected, and they really don't like that. These people are, they may vote blue, but they're Christians first, and so I could see the waves of alarm going through. I don't think a lot of people are saying only Cornyn can beat him, and I'm like, I think Paxton can beat him too. I
yeah,
honestly do. As a matter of fact, the way Paxton and Corning are going at it, hammer and tongs over on X, I'm like, I think people are starting to wake up to how good Ken Paxton actually is as a politician and how sincere he is about doing some stuff.
I mean, I don't live in Texas, so I don't have any say, but I hope you guys don't wind up picking the guy that wants to pass amnesty and work on gun control. 'Cause, yeah.
No, and this is what I tell everybody. Everybody's like, "Oh, but Cornyn's a Republican." I said, "Yeah, but he has a failing grade as far as conservative values go." And I my kids didn't know that he was for gun control. They just thought that he was a conservative like me, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." But I gotta intercede here because I Patch McCain lost too,
That was
so
glorious. That
he
was
should have
glorious.
lost 2 years ago. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of glad he's gone too. Um, but the deal with Cornyn and Paxton, a lot of people are like, well, Paxton has some baggage and all that stuff. And I said, when you look at all three who were running for that particular for that primary, when you look at everything that they did, the transgressions, two of them, the transgressions were against the constituency. Paxton's allegations never harmed the constituency, and those were allegations.
Yeah.
It was never proven that he did anything, but these were allegations brought against him. But it was nothing that he did against the constituency of the state of Texas. The other two, oh yeah,
Well,
their
yeah. Well,
votes, their things have actually harmed the state of Texas. So
that's one of the things that drives me crazy anymore is in politics. Court of public opinion is enough anymore. As soon as you're accused of anything, you're just automatically guilty, which is what drove me crazy about the Epstein files. And now, all the Congress critters screaming and yelling about we need to release all that now, and then they just voted to keep their little slush fund tabulations completely secret yet again. So all of them can kiss my ass as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, so it's been fun while you've been away.
apparently so. I was as soon as I got back, I went as soon as I got back, I had to host several friends from Twitter for a weekend, and then when they left, I got I got in the car and went to vote.
Nice.
uh, that was a plan. I said as as soon as they all left, I you know I was still in pajamas when they left, even though it was noon. But I went, changed, got in a car, went and voted. So you know, one of the things that the Republicans are really, really, really bad about are primaries and um, midterm elections. We're really bad about that, and that has to change. But on other good news, Tony Gonzalez was finally pressured to actually drop out of the race. And so now we have Brandon Herrera, who is kick ass. So I'm very happy for Texas 23.
Oh, so sorry. I was reading up on something. We touched on it today on the news roundup, but yeah, it looks like it's still making the rounds, and I think it's actually been confirmed now. So you're and you probably remember this because I know it's been something that's seemingly plagued the U.S. for a while. There was this one IRGC commander that no matter how hard they tried to find him and kill him, they never could. I think we may finally know why. He's back
What?
in Israel, where he was originally from.
Ah,
He's apparently been deep stating for them for a while. So, yeah, it can now be revealed that the IRGC Quds Force commander Esmail Kani is confirmed back home safe in Israel.
I don't, I can't even imagine the amount of moles that Israel had in Iraq. I really can't. I don't think
Yeah,
I can't reach that number in my head.
it's probably a lot, but it's just weird to think about. I mean, because that guy has apparently been embedded with them for a long ass time, and they're like, yeah,
Wasn't there a woman that was that infiltrated the government in a certain position or something? She gathered intel for like 9 years before she quietly slipped out of the country and went back to Israel.
yeah, I remember hearing about that.
I mean, that took courage, because a guy can actually move freely about the country, a woman cannot. So that was that was an amazing story. But anyway,
Fun times, fun times. But
Yeah, so this was supposed to be our ramble show, and yeah, normally we don't do politics, but oh my goodness, how can you avoid them this week?
well, I mean, and that's the thing. I was like, there's just well, there's more. Like, as Amish points out most of the time, in California, a lot of folks are no party preference, or as I like to call it, you're down with MPP, yeah, you know me. But apparently, um, a certain Hollywood icon changed to no party preference today, and a lot of other people are following suit. Because I guess James Wood went to MPP today, and a lot of other folks are doing it too,
Wait, they're doing what now?
going to no party preference
Ah,
in
so
their voter registration, so it's harder for everybody to track them in California. So,
I
mm,
I totally understand that. Um,
but yeah, I
it's
just saw that come across my feed, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's interesting."
well,
Because yeah,
it's a very sad state of affairs where you live in a supposedly free country, but you have been browbeaten into hiding your politics because you'll be attacked for them. And I know I have been attacked for mine in my own family. So, I get why you would want to stay quiet. Now, the reason that I'm not quiet is that I'm very far away from my family. They're in Puerto Rico, I'm over here. So I can actually get on a group Facebook Facebook group and throw a bomb in there and just quietly just sit back and just let the fireworks happen. It was a lot more fun when my dad could follow along and read it. I'll be honest. But
that's funny.
uh no, but speaking about Puerto Rico and California, you heard that the woman that had been in charge of the reservoirs and all that stuff, she was being paid $750,000 a year over in California, was hired by the energy company in Puerto Rico to handle stuff over there. And I'm like, I say this with all the love in my heart. You just bought an idiot. and, and to the people of Puerto Rico, start investing in oil lamps because this is not going to end well.
Yeah, Amish and I made a joke about that on Wednesday night because I was like, I happen to host a podcast with a Puerto Rican woman every Friday, and I can assure you there are no better opportunities in Puerto Rico. So I'm not really sure where she's running to, but yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, I think she's trying to flee California because it was just agreed that she could be sued. Um, I think she was going to be brought up in charges or something, and she decided to take this opportunity to go live somewhere else. And so she's going to be working in Puerto Rico for I guess, the electric company, electric cooperative, whatever it is. It's called Lume.
Oh wait,
And
she gonna be the guy that comes on at the very end and yells, "Hey, you guys!" Oh wait, wrong electric company. My bad.
but yeah, so I don't think that people of Puerto Rico really understand exactly what she did in California, because the devastating fires of California are seldom covered in the way it is nationally here in Puerto Rico. They'll touch on it, they'll talk about it, and then they'll go to the local stuff, which is more important. Obviously, they're an island in the middle of the Caribbean or right outside of the Caribbean. Well, around the Caribbean. Whatever. They're in the Caribbean. But so whatever is happening there is more important than whatever is happening in California. A fire is not going to be a big deal. Now, for example, when Maria happened and the vast destruction that happened because of that particular hurricane coming so fast on the heels of Irma, everybody forgets about that. Puerto Rico had been hit by Hurricane Irma 9 days before Maria made landfall. So everything was super saturated. There was nowhere for the water to go. And that's what caused a lot of the destruction. Um, so when that happened, then they were all screaming, look at us, we're part of, the US too, and blah, 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 and everything. And whatever. But if it happens over here, they really don't pay attention. They'll say, oh, praying for the families, and then they'll go back to their social networking, whatever. Um, I trust me, I see it with my family. My family is like a microcosm of that entire island because I have so many relatives. Tell
Oh,
you, this is exactly how they operate. So I don't think they know exactly what they got with this woman. They, I don't think they know. Some people do know, but I think the people that do know are kind of like hoping that it doesn't get disclosed. And I think they wanted to get somebody that had creds for having worked in a vast state such as California, that had vast experience working in such manner and blah blah blah. Never mind that her work was completely shitty. They don't care about that. They just want to be able to put creds out there to make it seem like the actual company is doing something to improve the quality of the electrical grid, of everything. So I don't think this is going to work. Honest to God, I do not think this is going to work. So
I guess
but
only
but we'll
time will
see.
tell.
Well, I like I said, it boggles the mind because a lot of people are not aware of this. The governor does not run the island. The chief financial officer runs the island. He's the one that determines where the money goes, who's going to spend it, doing what. And everybody thinks it's the governor. No, the governor just signs off on it. The governor is like a figurehead as far as I'm concerned. I don't think any governor, while I've been alive, there has done anything except be a bitch to the next one or the previous one. That's all they've done. The one guy that I actually had hopes of doing something for Tuño was voted out because what he wanted to do was pare back the public, what do you call that? Pensions, the public pensions. My aunt worked for the water company, and her pension, she gets the same salary as when she retired. It's a six-figure salary, and she keeps getting that. She retired at the age of 50. She's now 82. So this is something that a lot of people don't know. The pensions there are insane, and he wanted to actually pare them back, start cutting them back, start the new people that were working for the government were going to get a totally different pension. They were going to get different uh, perks and 401ks or whatever, and they didn't like that. The people didn't like that. They want the US to dig them out of that hole. By law, the US cannot do that because they're not a state. They're a freely associated state of the US. In other words, they're a territory that is given the right to govern itself without interference from the US. So the US cannot pay the debts of Puerto Rico. Hillary Clinton told you that they could back in 2016, but that's not true. They can't do that. So they keep voting for statehood, voting for statehood. Well, here's the other dirty secret. 3/4 of the current states have to agree to bring you in, but the only way that they can agree is if they're in the black, and that's not going to happen. So it's a big mess, and they just bought an even bigger mess. So I will be following that telenovela closely, if only to report back to Orty, tell him what's going on with that bitch.
I don't. Well, so in one of the primaries, there was a guy who opted to leave, and of course, they made the public announcement. After much time and consideration and prayer with my wife, we've decided I'm not continuing my campaign. So, and I had a feeling that once the story started breaking that was going to happen, that it was probably because old dude was about to be under investigation in the ethics committee. So
Yeah.
I think he offered to leave, hoping that would go away.
No.
One, it has not gone away. 2, we
Yeah.
just made sure we're going to get our first YouTuber as a congressman, most likely, if he wins the general. So,
Which,
which,
I'm all for it because this guy seems pretty. I mean, I've been following it for a very long time, and um, it and he doesn't take shit from anybody. There was one account that said, "Oh, so you guys are gonna keep in mind, Texas 23 now has a Republican candidate that um, was marching to the Nazi song and blah blah blah." And he replied, "Yeah, I stand by it. It was funny as shit."
there's this whole video clip of him on a podcast going around where he's admitting that he owns a copy of Mein Kampf, and they're like, "Oh my
Yes.
god, this is terrible!" And he's like, "I owned it to read it to understand it, and then I eventually made fun of it. So what's your
Yes,
problem?"
he did an entire thing making fun of it. He actually, and when he tests all of his weapons, he will actually these weapons are from different countries as well. So the German ones, he had a mock-up of Hitler. He used it on. I'm saying that, and here's the weird part. I remember growing up, and my government teacher told me that he read Mein Kampf when he was in college. It was required reading in world history.
Dude, I've read it.
So, you know, I I actually had the opportunity to buy it in German. I had to pass it up because being a military wife, I cannot be I can't have that in my possession. But I did have the opportunity to actually buy a hardback copy of it, and it was in excellent condition. Do you mind using a handkerchief to open the book and everything? I mean, he was really taking care of it. And I did. I saw it. It was first edition and everything. It was worth a lot of money. And I told him, why don't you sell it like through Sotheby's or something? And he said, we're not allowed to. And so he was willing to sell it to me for €100, but I couldn't. So I was like, that's one of my almost like weird crap that happens to Aggie thing. That's right up there. Running
Yeah.
into somebody willing to sell a fantastic copy of Mein Kampf first edition for €100, and I couldn't do it. But I got to see it. I got to read some of it. He was not a good writer. I will tell you that. Even in German, you could tell that he was not a good writer. So it's and my professor also told me that. My government teacher told me that. And he said, we had to read it, and it wasn't that good. It's like- and I was like, how do you quantify that? How do you say that it's not good? It's awful. And it's like, well, no. I mean, not all of it was let's kill everybody and let's go to war with the world or anything like that. It was literally his struggle. How from when he was young all the way until when he became chancellor, and it was boring. It was just stupid stuff. It was like, wow, okay. But everybody says because it was Adolf Hitler who wrote it that it's, completely evil and everything. I'm like, yeah, the grammar sure was evil. I will give it that. The content, yeah, pretty dull and bland. So if you want to put that in the evil column, I'll grant you that. So, but but he, I know people that read subversive works because they want to be really educated on the matter so that they can debate that. That's the whole you can't go around just reading, like, you can't really just read the New Testament and skip the Old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean you can't really have one without the other, so that's just dumb. Sorry, I was reading a very confusing story, so now I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. So on March the 3rd, I think it was, right after we bombed the shit out of the Electoral Council in Iran, there
Uh-huh.
was a news announcement that they had selected Khomeini's son to be the next mullah. But now I'm seeing a report that Iran has officially delayed naming a new leader out of security concerns, per the New York Times. So now I'm like, did they walk it back? Are the reports I've been seeing for the last couple of days that old dude is actually already dead true? What's going on? Because
Um,
something ain't adding up.
I heard the term Wakatola and I about died.
I've seen whack-a-mole.
Wakatola. Wakatola or something like that. I was crying. Wow.
Yeah,
I
there's a retired general who did a news interview that said we were currently playing a game of whack-a-mole.
Oh, quick shout out to Noel coming in from YouTube. How you doing? Hope you're doing great.
Nice.
But yeah, I heard that that term. And one of the things that I've seen a lot of people saying, um, as Christians, how do you balance the fact that you are making fun of these things, and how do you balance the fact that people are dying over there? It's like, well, you see, we are called to squelch evil wherever it is. As Christians, that's part of our job. That's in the job description. Okay. Um, the Ayatollahs are not good people. They want to kill the rest of the world and establish a caliphate. And they want to bring that about ASAP. And they don't care if you're Christian, they only care that.
They don't care if
So
you're Christian. What?
they they don't care if they only care that you're not Muslim. Okay. If you're Muslim, you kind of get a pass until they figure out whether or not you're Shia or Sunni. And that's a whole other ball of wax. But if you're not Muslim, you don't count. They want to eradicate you. They want you gone. If they cannot tax you, they want you gone. That's evil. Okay. I don't know any Hindu that would want that for me. I don't know any Buddhist, Zen, Shinto that would want that of me, or Confucius. I don't, I don't, I don't know of anybody. I don't know any Mormon. I don't know any Pentecostal. I don't know any Presbyterian. I don't know Anglican. I don't know anybody that would want to eradicate me because I'm not part of their particular religion. But I do know that the Muslims have actually said that they want to do away with those who are not part of their religion. So that's not a good thing. And so I'm okay with that happening. Um, the how far do you have to go to be tolerant?
Yeah, it's not tolerance to let them kill you. That's not tolerance. But and for me, I have a much simpler answer because one, I am gonna say what I've been saying now for the last week. This is something that should have been dealt with in 1980 and was not. But the reason I'm okay with it now, and the reason I can reconcile what we're doing versus what I would like for us to be doing, is seeing women and people of Iran dancing in the streets while we're bombing the infrastructure of that evil ass regime. That's why I'm okay with it. Because I've seen post after post after post when they get internet access of Iranian women telling the awfuls here to shut the hell up and not to use them as ammunition because they're grateful for what
Yeah,
we're doing.
I'm I'm and this is a tragedy. I remember watching this on ABC when it happened, when the revolution began and when the hostages were taken. It was being broadcast, um, and it it was scary. It was really, you saw what you saw some women cheering for it, and then like a week later you saw no women at all. It was really weird. I didn't know what was going on. I was maybe about to turn 13 when this happened, and it was really odd. I, honest to God, I thought they had gone somewhere else, that they had moved. I didn't know what to think. I couldn't. I couldn't process it. I was too young. But I actually know people now that had no idea that Iran had been a free country before that women could wear miniskirts and heels and have no head coverings in Iran prior to 1979. They had no idea. I said, "Oh no, it's the same in Pakistan and it's the same in Afghanistan. It's the same in, you know, several other countries." And I actually had one young woman who she was 38 and I met her when I was visiting my daughter and she said, "How is that possible?" And I said, "Well, that's what this particular regime has demanded of women. This is what this particular brand of religion demands of women, that they be covered, that they be subservient, that they be second-class citizens, and they have no rights." I said, "You couldn't drive a car as a woman in Saudi Arabia until just a few years ago." And she was like, "Oh, no, that's insane." I said, "No, that's true." And she did not believe me until I told her, search for photographs of Iran prior to 1979. And she saw them. She's there sitting next to me on her phone, scrolling. And she was just like, I, this is so weird. I can't believe this. I thought Iran had always been like this. I said, no, it wasn't always like this. My dad always had this saying, and this is a saying that a lot of people have, but he always used to tell me, it takes about 50 years for historical truth to come out. You're 47
Yep.
of Iran. So now things are starting to come out. See what I mean? So I I'm seeing this and a lot of people are like really being pessimistic about the whole thing. I said, you don't understand. This isn't the first time that the Iranian people rose up, but it is the first time that the US has listened and helped them. If you recall, they did this during the Obama administration, and Obama said, "Yeah, we can't help you, but we're going to give them a bunch of cash."
We're going to give
So,
them a bunch of money and hope they leave you alone. That's
yeah,
the plan.
that was pretty much it. And that uprising cost so many lives. And now these uprisings are also costing a lot of lives. But these people are willing to die so that their children can be free
You
and their
remember when
relatives can be free.
Americans were that tough? I kind
I
of
think
miss it.
it's really sad because not having been born here and coming here in the summer of 76, I have an appreciation for freedom that a lot of Americans don't have. And I have a friend to a lot of people in the Twitterverse at Roman Stoicism, Iraf. He he's Australian. He is now a naturalized citizen here. He has dual citizenship with Australia and the United States. He's a better American than most people I know. I'm not even joking. That
Well,
guy,
that's
if
because
his
part of
brand
it's
of red, white, and blue blood is different
yeah.
from the Australian.
Well, I think part of that is because we still have this annoying thing where we make naturalized citizens pass a citizenship test that most of our high
Yeah,
school graduates couldn't pass anymore. So,
this is true.
which is one of the reasons why I mean, I know why, don't get me wrong, I know why they stopped teaching civics and everything else, but the fact that we still make our converts take the test when we don't expect our actual citizens to be Americans anymore is kind of weird to me. But so this was interesting. I saw this today. So a retired general who I heard using the term whack-a-mole actually said that he has never seen our military operating on this kind of a scale. And other people that were commenting on the article where I pulled this from had said, think of how much differently the world would be if we had gone after Vietnam with the same vigor, or gone after North Korea with the same vigor that we're going after Iran today. And that got me
Yeah.
thinking, because I'm like, because he's right. The closest we've ever seen to this was shock and awe, and this makes shock and awe look like a freaking paintball game.
Well, and if you recall, for Shock and Awe actually worked, and then they changed the ROE,
Of course.
and we were like, wait, what? I had friends at Leighton Barracks at the Big Red One that were like, wait, what? I mean, seriously, they were like confused. And they could not understand why the ROE was changed right after it had been so successful. It's the same thing that happened with the Tet Offensive. It was the same thing. And that was another thing. The Tet Offensive, for a long time, everybody thought that we had lost that. And it wasn't until 50 years after that that people started realizing, no, we had won the Tet Offensive, but the media told us we lost it, and we believed it.
Exactly. Which is exactly what they're trying to do right now. If you turn on legacy media right now, all you keep hearing is how badly everything's going for the American military. And all you hear from Democrats is how we are sure to lose. And I made this comment the other day. It was bad enough in the 90s and the 2000s when we had one Baghdad Bob. But now we have 50 million Tehran Tibays because everybody's on the internet saying, this is what's really happening and the U.S. government's lying to you.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not getting the information from the US government. I'm getting it from the Iranians that are brave enough to actually post this stuff. They risk their lives to get this out, get information out into the world. That's where I'm getting my information from. And when you see, and I get it from the Iranians all over the world that are chanting, thankfully, to the nations that are going in and helping their people. The ones that are out in the street with their flags and with the American flag saying thank you. That's where I'm getting the information. And this is what the left cannot stand. The fact that they want to, they're having a protest for get us out of Iran, no war for oil, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And the Iranians are looking at them going, shut the hell up. You're not, you're a useful idiot.
Yeah, no, it's just all of this is absolutely crazy. Just as an example of another Tehran Timmy, I see some idiot on X called King Chelsea Ugg who's posting a video that is plainly and blatantly AI, claiming that the Iranians have completely worn down Israel's Iron Dome and they're just raining missiles down on them. I'm like, whatever, dude.
I saw that. I was like, are they serious with this? Like,
I
oh my
mean,
goodness.
yeah, it's
I
just
love the
insane.
meme in reply. I am so tired of your AI slop. That little meme that flies around.
I mean, it's insane to me that all these people think that, that we can't find the information on our own. And I will tell you the one thing that surprised me about all of this, because I always kind of knew the Iranian people didn't really want anything to do with the regime that was controlling them. But I never really thought about how well they would get along with the Jews if the regime wasn't in the way. Like, I am seeing Iranian and Israeli people partying in the streets together right now. This is something that, according to everything that I was ever told sociologically, historically, would be impossible.
No, it was completely possible. Iran or Persia and Israel do have a very long history. Um, and their history is not a bitter one. It's not one full of strife. It's actually one of cooperation and peace. This is something that a lot of people were not ever told unless you study ancient Persia and understand Cyrus the Great, and you read about all of that, and you begin to understand the connection there. Another thing that a lot of people don't know, Turkmenistan has a relationship with Iran. It down to the kind of the same language is spoken in both areas, even though they're kind of far apart. So the people tend to think that people from Persia actually traveled there and found it, and that's where they settled and everything, and that became Turkmenistan and whatever. So their language is kind of similar and everything. Turkmenistan actually outlawed the burqa. They outlawed all symbols of Islam. They understand they're a Muslim country, but they understand that these symbols would 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 take over their national symbols.
We lost you to take over their national symbols, but
Yeah,
you're back.
we saw what happened with Iran, where their national dress is not allowed. Their national headwear is not allowed. None of their national symbols. The lion is not allowed. The lion and the sun is not allowed. All of those things that are precious to that region are not allowed. And Turkmenistan said, absolutely not. We may be a Muslim country, but those are religious items and they stay over there. They're not part of our culture. And when that happened, they had an uprising, but it was surprisingly small. Like, a lot of men started, like, they rose up, they started rioting and everything. And it wasn't, you would have thought that it would have been the entirety of the Muslim population because it is a Muslim country. And no, it was only men. And it got quelled pretty quickly. And the resolution passed, and it was passed as a law. You don't hear about that happening over here. It doesn't, it, it, it would give you an eye opening that the left and the narratives don't want you to have. Just because you're a Muslim country doesn't mean that you have to have your women in a burqa. It does not mean that the women have to be covered. The women don't have to be covered. And a lot of people don't realize that. You could have been Muslim. You were Muslim before 1979 in Iran. You were wearing mini skirts. Your hair was down. You had a perm. You were wearing lipstick. And Abdullah thought you were hot. Okay? That was the reality of Islam back then. What you have now is an aberration. And it stems from the fact that they believe the word of Allah should be absolute and you cannot change it. You cannot reform that particular religion. This is where
Yeah.
we're at now in the world.
Yeah.
So,
A couple of key points that I thought were absolutely interesting, though, is apparently the war to liberate Iran started on the 2500th anniversary of, I don't know how to say that, 2500th episode or anniversary of Esther using her
yes.
influence with the king of Persia to save the Jews. So they were posting everywhere. Israel was posting everywhere, favor return. I thought that was kind of cool. And then one of the other things that I thought was absolutely amazing about all of this was all the people that were just coming out and I've talked about this a lot, but like watching people standing on the rooftops as the bombs are falling and the missiles are hitting, and they're just gleefully exclaiming because they know that we're hitting the regime's infrastructure. This is just, it's something it takes a minute to catch up, but because my brain can't really process it all, watching it all happen in real time. But again, it's just so much of what we've been told about our history is wrong. And it makes me sad that we didn't do something about this stuff in the 80s or that we didn't have this approach during things like Vietnam and Korea, because the world would be a completely different place today if we had.
No, this is true. I know that when you and I when I was in high school, which was a few years before you were in high school, we were taught about what happened in Iran. We were taught about the hostage situation. I remember seeing interviews with, I believe his name was Terry. Terry was his first name, I believe. But he was one of the hostages that had been liberated right as Ronald Reagan was taking office. And he spoke of his experience there and the absolute hell that they all went through.
The absolute hell that they all went through.
Yeah, I'm on the main page, the Restream page, so I see when it drops me, so I stop talking until it recognize. I don't know why it's doing this. It's never done that before, but But I remember seeing those interviews on. I think he had one on Nightline, and he had one on 2020, and several other shows and whatnot. And so we grew up with that because it was still fresh. 79 to 85 was only 6 years, so I still remembered we were still getting the information. By the time I graduated from college in 89, the information wasn't as out there. We didn't have the internet. I mean, the internet was there, but it wasn't accessible to everybody, you know. Um, and so by the time the internet was up and running for everybody back in 96 or so, most of the stuff that was put into the Ask Jeeves or Inquire or whatever, basically just told of the Iranian Revolution that happened in 1979, and whereby I believe it was 66 were first taken, but it was 52 because they had released 13, and then they released one because they were sick. Um, so, but 52 of them spent 444 days in captivity. So that was pretty much all you could get at the time. And as the further we got from it, without that influx of information that you were getting back in the 80s, people just started realizing, oh, it's always been that way. They just started thinking that it had always been that way. As people were born, as people started growing up and everything.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And so, so, seeing people reacting in a negative way to what's going on in Iraq and Iran gives me a little bit of pause, because I'm pretty sure most of these people do not understand what happened in 1979, and they don't know about the history prior to 1979. They don't know anything about it. Witness my daughter's friend, who is 38 years old, and she is an officer in the Navy, and she didn't know. So you can imagine, that was, we were having that discussion as things were starting to unfold. And when I told her what Iran had been like, it was like I hit her face with a shovel. I'm serious. She was stunned. So I'm sure that a lot of people out there are actually behaving in this manner, thinking that Iran has always been this way. That's what they're told, and that's what they were taught. And now there's a lot of people are starting to realize, oh, it wasn't always this way. Oh, I thought we were supposed to be tolerant of this religion, but they don't seem to be very tolerant to anyone else. And things are
Right.
starting to people are starting to wake up to that fact.
So I have to back up for just a second because I just saw something, and if this is true, this is just one of these weird serendipity kind of things. So the the IRGC commander that I told you was actually a Mossad agent.
Hmm.
Apparently, in his classified files, his agent number is 47.
What?
Yep.
That's kind of beautiful on several levels, actually.
It's just one of those okay. If that's true, that's definitely a wink and a nod from somewhere, because 47th president and Agent 47 were both instrumental in doing away with most of Iran's infrastructure. Yeah, I would say
After
that.
47 years?
Yeah,
Yeah.
after 47 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
that's just one of those. That's the numbers lining up kind of thing. Makes you want to go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, Stephen also brings up Lebanon, which was a Christian country, by the way, until this shit started going down. And I remember being in Germany at the start of this particular century, and seeing ads on CNN International about going to Beirut. You know, Beirut is still considered the Paris of the Middle East, and a woman was talking about how wonderful it is and everything, and I'm going, they literally bombed something like not 3 days ago in Lebanon. Is nobody paying attention to that? No, they're not. They're
No, they're
trying
not.
not to tell you what's going on in Lebanon, because if you knew everything that was going on in Lebanon, you wouldn't want to visit Lebanon. So, that was another thing that I found really weird living overseas, that the flow of information from there was so tightly controlled that they were still suggesting that places in the Middle East, in the middle, by the way, at the very beginning, I want to say it was at the beginning of the global war on terror, were still tourist spots that you need to check out because they're so great. I'm going to the Middle East in the middle of the fucking war. Yeah, that's gonna
Yeah,
happen
well, let's
as an
just do that.
American.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so one more quick hit that I thought was absolutely just kind of funny little fodder. So they did Jesse Jackson's celebration of life service today. 3 former presidents
Oh
showed
yeah.
up, but
Mhm.
only 2 brought their wives. Mike wasn't there. So,
Oh, wasn't it in Chicago
yep,
and she wasn't there?
Mike wasn't there.
Huh.
Big Mike said, "Nah."
I thought it was really sad because it's supposed to be a celebration of life and it turned into a political rally. And for those of you who are my age, I'm sure you remember, I think his name was Paul Wellstone when he passed away, Minnesota. He was he was out of Minnesota and he passed away. And his entire funeral turned into a political rally. And I believe Trent Lott and who else? I know Trent Lott was there, and there were like 3 Republicans that went to pay their respects. They ended up getting up and having to leave early because it turned so hostile. I was watching this on TV and I was going, "Holy crap, this is supposed to be a memorial service for a man who really did serve his state as well as he could." I mean, he was very well liked by both parties, as I recall. And it just turned into this horrifying political rally. And I was like, have we learned nothing? Oh, no, we learned how to refine it, apparently, because it was Obama who turned it into a political rally. So I was there
What else?
listening to what he was saying, and I was like, God.
What else is a barely competent up-jumped community organizer gonna do?
Good point.
But yeah, which I think is the real reason why Michelle's done with him now, because dude, I don't know if you paid any attention to her podcast circuit, but she was bashing him the time in the White House, all of it. I've done all these things with my life, and everybody only remembers me as the first lady. If that's not bitter bitch face, I don't know what is.
Well, I heard that that's what she did, so I went to look at everything she did with her life, and
It wasn't very much,
no, it really wasn't.
but to her it was. My
And
life
and the
matters.
thing
And
is,
I
to be
come-
remembered as a first lady, it's actually kind of cool.
You would
You're
think.
married. First of all, you're married to the president, right? Second, you get your choice of whatever charity or work that you want to do. For example, Laura Bush was a librarian, so her thing was um, getting kids to read. Fostering fostering that in early education. Very admirable. Nancy Reagan dealt with, I think it was Patty who had the drug addiction. So her thing was making parents and children aware of the dangers of drugs. Um,
This is your brain. This is your brain
yeah.
on drugs.
Hillary was running the White House. So, while Bill was putting things in hoo-has. And then I think, Michelle had the healthy food initiative. which didn't do that great because what they ended up doing was instead of incentivizing kids to make better choices, you made the choices for the kids, and the kids didn't like that. And
Yeah.
see, I could have told her that. I said, but first of all, the first thing that I would have done was improve her wardrobe because it was awful. I don't know who was dressing her, but everybody was raving about her. And I could tell you, I've seen people that live in shelters better dressed than this woman as first lady, bar none. But anyway, when she did that, when she decided to tell kids what to eat, the kids were going to rebel, and they did. This did not go well. Had it been suggestions, had she gone out of her way to actually tell kids about positive things, they made a few changes, daily changes, extolling the benefits of eating carrots over eating, potato chips, that kind of thing. That would have gone a lot better, I think. But she wanted to dictate, and she did it, and it failed. But she did something, Melania, she has her own thing going, and it that's how first ladies kind of establish their legacies. They, you know, remember the movie Dave? Sigourney Weaver's character, her thing was homelessness. She
Oh yeah.
wanted to, you know, bring attention to the plight of homeless people and help them with a bill and all the stuff, right? So they all do that. They all have their, I hate to say it badly, but pet project. Um, it's more than that, but they all have that. They all want to do something that's good, that helps people, that is a charitable thing to do for others. That establishes you, and the fact that she is bitter about just being that tells you how badly her initiative failed, because she can't even see it as her own legacy.
Right.
She sees other things outside of it as her legacy.
Well, that's going back to one of those narcissistic things again, though, too, because they're never satisfied, no matter what. I mean, you know, they're just not. But you know what? And this is one of the things that I kind of got into it in the beginning of the whole Maha movement with a bunch of people from Michelle Obama's time. They're like, "Oh, now you want to get on board with healthy food?" I'm like, "This is kind of completely different." But if you're gonna have this argument, shouldn't you just be happy that we got here, even if it's 3 generations later or a generation or two later that we actually got here, and we agree with you now, instead of pointing out that we tried to do this back in the early 2000s and y'all didn't want anything to do with it. Well, okay, well we came around because we realize now that our FDA sucks. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, from my understanding is she missed out on a really good political rally. Maybe she was off doing her nails or something. I don't know.
She
I
was
tried
probably
listening to her podcast a few times, and it seems rather forced. And especially when President Obama is there, it's very forced.
well, yeah,
There's
she can't bash him the way she does when he's not there.
the thing is, you see, even Hillary and Bill have a certain chemistry together. For all their faults, they still have that. Um, Bush, the Bushes always had a chemistry together, both of them, parent and son. Um, Reagan as well with Nancy, Rosalind and Jimmy. Um, I never got to see Betty and Gerald Ford, but I know from accounts that Pat very much was loved by Richard. So um, I don't see that with the Obamas at all. I don't see it. I mean, and the thing is, I find myself looking for it all the time, and it drives me crazy because they're supposed to have a happy marriage. They're supposed to be, they have children, they have this, they have that, they have houses. They now have a library that looks like, the Borg have landed on Earth or something. I I don't know who designed it, but meth is no way to go through life. And somebody should have told him that. But anyway, I don't
Yeah, dude.
see any chemistry between them at all.
Well, I'm glad that you pointed out that the Obama library looks like the Borderland on Earth, because that's one of the first things I thought of. Like, this is like from a dystopian nightmare or something. But
It kind of
so
it kind of does, and I just it's very brutal, and um, it's rather ugly. You know what it reminds me of? Soviet architecture.
a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe that was intentional. I don't know.
So
But in defense, that's not the actual library. That's the center. So that's the main center. The library will be off to the side. It's going to be the compound will have like 4 buildings, I think, and the library is off on the other side. But that's the main center for greets and things of that nature. Whatever.
yeah, I don't know.
It looks better than its official portrait means.
I mean, that's not necessarily wrong though either. So, um, I thought this was an interesting story today because I almost forgot that Iran had tried to kill Trump once before. But apparently, the IRGC operative who tried to carry that out was convicted today. So,
Oh, really?
yep.
Good
Looks like
news.
today a federal jury convicted Asif Merchant, also known as Asif Rasa Merchant, of murder for hire and attempting to commit an act of terrorism transcending national boundaries. Merchant was a trained operative of the Iranian government's global terrorist force, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Merchant admitted at trial that the IRGC sent him to the United States to arrange for political assassinations and steal documents, but law enforcement foiled the plot before any attack could be carried out. Merchant arrived in the United States in April of 2024, met with purported hitman in June, who were in fact undercover U.S. law enforcement officers in New York, and was placed under arrest before leaving the country in July of 2024. And now that he's been convicted, he's facing up to life in prison. Dun, dun, dun. So there's that.
Are you telling me my tax dollars are going to pay for 3 squares and a cot for this guy?
I mean, I think they should pay for a bullet, but that's just me. And then they should bill the family for the cost of the bullet. That's the one thing I think the Chinese got right.
I was going to say, like the Chinese.
Especially for things like this. This is the one time that I agree with the Chinese. These people should be lined up against a wall, shot, and the family should be billed for the cost of the bullet as well as any cost incurred for the hearing. But that doesn't sound very American when you say that. So a lot of people are like, I don't know if I'd go that far. I would.
I don't know. I think a couple of states still have firing squad as an option.
We do. It's one of ours.
That's one of yours? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we have, lethal injection, but as far as I know, we've installed an express lane.
Speaking of things that, with the things that line up with nothing really happening this week, did you hear what happened to DHS Barbie?
I did. And yeah, I got nothing.
Dude, I mean, the thing with me that eventually just completely soured me with her was every ad she was front and center talking about the work that she was doing. I'm like,
Yes.
this isn't about you. Bring up if she had put a face with the department, it would have been a hell of a lot harder for the Democrats to vilify them the way they were doing for the last several months. If people were actually seeing, real people, real faces, and having them talk about the work that they're doing. If you're gonna blow that kind of money, that's how you blow that kind of money. You don't make it about you. But then again, I mean, this is her we're talking about. One of the things we figured out quite early on is most everything is about her. And apparently it took Trump a while to learn that lesson.
The thing that the big clue for me that everything was about her was her makeup and her earrings and her hair extensions. I hated it. I hated everything about her look. I'm not saying she's not a pretty lady. She is. but she was so over the top made up that she felt she looked like a celebrity.
Which
It
is exactly what
seriously,
she was trying to
like
do.
somebody walking the red carpet had less makeup than she had on. It drove me crazy. I could not stand it. And of course, that's that was my first clue that this was the Gnome show, not the DHS thing. And
Yeah.
it was her going, being strapped and getting the tactical vest on and all that stuff while her hair was perfectly coiffed under that cap and wearing big hoop earrings. Girl, no. If you're going to go out there, at least look the part. Put your hair in a fucking bun and take off the damn earrings, you know. And for God's sake, clip your nails. There's no reason if you're going to go out there and handle a weapon that your nails need to look like 2-inch talons. Okay, I think I'm okay. I got it off my chest.
Feel better now?
I do.
But yeah, I mean, so for me, this is my only concern. One, I kind of like his pick. I've actually kind of been a fan of Mullen, and I know a lot of people didn't like this, but when he's like in the middle of that Senate hearing and he's like reading this dude's comment, it's like, this is a time, this is a place. You want to be consenting adults and resolve this right now? Because dude was
Mhm.
like, quit your cowboy antics and your tough guy attitude. Because if I was there and you were there, you wouldn't be saying any of this and blah blah blah. And he's like, okay, so we're both here. We gonna do this thing or not? And then Sanders in the background's all like, sit down, you're a United States Senator, for God's sake. And I'm like, shut up, dude. Let him go at it. It would have been entertaining. But I would have been worried about the other dude since Mullen is an MMA fighter and
I
undefeated.
just think it's kind of cool that a Native American is kicking foreigners off our soil.
You
I,
think?
I'm just like, when that happened, I'm like, is this another troll by our president? The
Probably.
guy's actually well qualified, but
I mean, well, not according to the Democrats, because remember, he doesn't have a bachelor's degree, so he's not
oh,
qualified.
that's right. Yeah, he's not educated. I'm like, finally somebody that has common sense on their corner. I'm sorry. I look at the entirety of the Senate and and the House of Representatives, and none of these people are actually using that little bit of paper at all. So it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. There are some
Yeah,
people that do get an education when they go to college. It is for them, and they use that education to further themselves in whatever work they choose to do. They keep educating themselves as they go along as well, and that's fine. That's great. But you cannot tell me that the people that are now serving in Congress are using that education. They're not.
yeah, no, they're not at all. That was one of the funny things that Amish and I talked about the other night when when Jazzy was starting her, whiny concession speech. It's like it's funny, all the Ebonics disappeared when she started using legal terms and talking about how this shouldn't have happened and this shouldn't have happened. I was like, for 5 seconds, she's sounding like an attorney again. But back to Mullen, I think the only thing that I'm actually afraid of is now that my governor is not up for reelection, he's talking a lot more like a Democrat, and I'm afraid he might try to do something to mess with Trump on the way out the door. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a bad feeling.
Well, a lot of people here are kind of disappointed with the fact that Abbott got won the primary. I'm not surprised. Name recognition goes a long way, but the thing is, Abbott has not been that bad of a governor. Yeah, he had um, a few things that he didn't do as well. He did shut us down for a couple of weeks, but not as long as almost every other state, with the exception of Florida. So and he was like, after he shut down, he kind of realized this is not doing anybody any good, and so it lasted like maybe 3 weeks, I think, if that. Um, and there are some other things. The initiative that he signed into law giving grants to charter schools. Well, unfortunately, the Islamists have taken advantage of that, and that is one of the reasons so many Islamic centers have sprung up, especially up here in the north part of Texas. So now there are propositions on the ballot to help stem that, and I cannot fault him for that, because that was something that was passed by the legislature. He signed it into law, but there was good faith behind it, so I can understand that. But I think there's going to be a redefinition of what a charter school is, so that this no longer happens. On top of that, Proposition 10 is on the ballot, and Proposition 10 has 4 words on it: make Sharia law illegal. That's it.
I like that
That's
one.
that's all that's on that proposition, and I'm like, I don't think there's any ambiguity here. As I was walking out, I was going to get my ballot scanned. I overheard the guy in front of me as he was. I darkened that particular Proposition 10 so hard, I think I tore the paper.
Nice.
So there's a lot of people are starting to realize that there have been some things that happened with the Abbott administration here that have been a few missteps and everything. But, like I said, he does work well with the administration, and I think he was the safest one for the Republicans to actually put up for the primary. So we'll see. The one that I'm glad it's in a runoff is Chip Roy, because he was really far behind the other guy. The other guy is a little rhino ass. I don't like him. But Chip Roy is running for the AG position here, and it's now in a runoff. So hopefully, come May, he'll win that one. And I don't know. I don't think anybody remembers, but the first time he ran here, the primary resulted in a runoff for him as well. And
All right. Well, I hate to cut us off, but I
Yeah.
forgot we have something on after us, so we got to go because I'm
Okay.
spinning cursive
Well,
stuff.
they all know where they can find us. So
Yeah,
we
they've
can
heard
go.
it a million times by now. Hang out for Cursus Stefanaros next installment starting now. And I know we went a couple minutes over, and I usually yell at people for doing that, so I apologize. But
Yeah,
we'll
my
see
bad.
you guys next week. And I'll be back
Okay.
tomorrow night with Juxtaposition. Bye, everybody.
Good night.